Welcome to On The Sidelines. I'm John Luck with Dominic Damiano and Brad McKinnon, sporting the Jake DeBrusk jersey, trying to bring them some good luck.
Well, yeah, it will happen. It will happen. Game 1, he showed up. Game 3, we're going to need him, I'll tell you that.
In Game 2, you got us a piece of our set, so...
I got free tickets. I couldn't deny him. Right. I don't know how I got free tickets, but it just worked out that way.
So we'll talk about the Bruins and Celtics coming up in overtime later in the show, but right now I want to talk about the New England Patriots as we lead off with the draft. And as of this recording, we honestly have no idea what the Patriots are going to do, who they're going to take, but a lot of intrigue around this draft. And the Patriots have the number 3 pick as we're recording right now, but where do you think they're going to go as far as a position? Everyone's saying quarterback, but there's still that small chance that Marvin Harrison Jr. could be making his way to one Patriot place.
Yeah, I think if they're smart, they'll stay with that pick. Rumors were that they were going to trade with the Vikings. Vikings was maybe going after Daniels. See, I didn't say his first initial this time, so I didn't butcher it this time. And I just think they're going to stay, and I think they're going to try to build around the draft around this brand new quarterback, which I hope is Daniels from LSU.
I do think myself, too, that that's our best shot. I mean, like I said the last meeting, I'm not against Harris if we don't grab Daniels, but I would want us to pick a quarterback in the first. But like I said, if he's there and we don't, if Daniels goes second, there are other quarterbacks, as McCaffrey and all those, but there are quarterbacks we could maybe grab in the second too. Yeah. But I would like to see Daniels be our first round pick.
Oh, I'd love that. I would love that.
I just like Marvin. The only reason why I like Marvin Harrison Jr. I watched him. He has really good. He's a great player, and I mean his father. Look what him and Peyton Manning did. Imagine if we could get him and find him a Peyton and see what they can do. You know, like I said, I would rather a quarterback in the first round that we can build around. But if that rumor has any truth to it and it happens, I wouldn't be 100% opposed to it.
So the trade you're talking about is one that was brought up. It was more of a trade proposal from some of the social media sites. If I remember right, the Vikings would get the number 3 pick. Right. The Patriots would get the number 11 pick. I believe it was the 25th or 22nd pick, but still 2 first-round picks in this draft and then future draft considerations. And realistically, I think you have to look at that seriously because right now the Patriots have too many openings, be it the offensive line, some receivers, because I don't know if Kendrick Bourne is going to be, a number 1 caliber wide receiver when we get to next season, and even tight end as well, maybe someone to help out Hunter Henry. I know they got Austin Hooper from Cleveland, but still they need a lot of help, a lot of positions that have to be filled in terms of roster space. And at this point, I think you have to look at this kind of like a gift card. Yeah. You can go ahead and spend this $50 gift card, or you can hold it, get some value, wait for something you really want, and go ahead and spend it. And I think that would be a better option going with that. Instead of going with number 3 and possibly getting a good quarterback, be it a Drake May, Jaden Daniels, maybe even a Michael Penix Jr., because in a lot of mock drafts, Penix Jr. is slated to go 13 to the Raiders. So the game plan here is just get above the Raiders, and Penix is there for you.
Right. I'm mumbling again. I'm sorry. So anyway, I talked about Penix last show, how much I like that kid from Washington. I think he should go a lot deeper in the draft. But then again, what do I know? I'm not getting paid to make draft picks and at that professional level.
That's why you're here with us.
That's right. But exactly, I think you need. If you think of it as a business, the total business and the future of the team. I mean, yes, I would like to grab that quarterback. Let's grab that quarterback. Let's build the future. But if you have a chance to grab 2 other picks, and like you said, it could be, I believe it's the 22nd pick, that would be great. That would be great for the Patriots. 2 first-round draft picks.
You could find a lineman. You could get a quarterback at the same time.
Even a good tight end.
Right? Well, like John said, another position player. You could have there's a bunch of talent as far as receiver depth goes in this draft. So again, my dream list would be of course, would be Daniels, and then if they do think of it and they do their due diligence and they look at them like, 2 first rounders wouldn't be a bad idea. And like you said, you draft them above the Raiders so you can get Penix, and you don't know, like you said, McKee, you don't know who's going to be there by your 11th pick in your 20th. You don't know.
So the thing that scares me about this entire process is who is making this pick. Is it going to be Elliott Wolf, who apparently is the de facto GM in this process? Yeah. Is it Robert Kraft, who may be on his way out in terms of having his fingers in the game? Is it Jonathan Kraft, who wasn't even at the Gerard Mayo press conference because he was doing business work for Kraft? Is it Gerard Mayo because he's going to be coaching? Who is making this pick? And Elliott Wolf met with the media back on the 18th, and he was asked, when we talked to you at the Combine, you said that you were the one who was going to be making the call ultimately at number 3. Has anything changed at this point? Wolf said no. If I'm the only person that wants a player and everybody else in the building doesn't want that player, then I'm not crazy. We're going to try to do it right. Another question was asked, at this point, how would you characterize trade discussions with other teams and with the Patriots' willingness to potentially move down? This was that big quote that everyone was looking at, but here's the full statement. We're open to anything, moving up, moving down. We're open for business in the first round, in every round. We have some holes we feel like we need to fill in the draft. We're drafting to develop the team. The more picks we have, the better. But if there's an opportunity to move up and strike, if the board kind of recommends it, then we won't be afraid to pull the trigger on that either. So to me, this was about a week before the draft. I don't even think the Patriots know what they want to do for the first pick.
Yeah, that's what it kind of sounds like. The guy's talking over himself in one sentence and trying to cover his butt to be the ultimate Patriots fan slash not business owner, but something to do with the business of the team. And I really don't think he knows what he's doing according to what he said. It's almost like that movie Draft Day, with Kevin Costner. It's going to be Draft Day 2, but the New England Patriots. What do? Do you take someone in the third round, or you give it up and let the Vikings take their guy and you take 2 picks? Either way, you would think it's a win-win, but, not to be devil's advocate or worst case scenario, what if Daniels is a bust and he's just too small and he takes one bad hit and next he's gone. Then you take 2 picks. You don't know, but overall, from what you just read, I would love to see them take, now that I had a chance to dwell on it from started, is take the 2 picks. Let's take the 2 picks. You get more to gain than to lose.
Better chance to rebuild.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
You get 2 in the first round, that's where you want to get your people, is the first
exactly.
round. You can find your sleepers deep in, but when we need to rebuild as many spots as we do, the more first round picks, the better off we probably would be.
Absolutely.
So last week we played a game called Would You Eat It? I wanted to go ahead with the game aspect here in the first part. And what I have here is a list of stats from some of the top quarterbacks projected in the draft. You can't see it on TV, but I blacked out the names and the schools. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to give you each a copy here. These are the same stats.
Yep.
And we have it on the screen as well. So you're going to look at the stats here. Is there anything that pops out to you? And I'll let you know which quarterback you're going to draft with the Patriots' first pick. A lot of these quarterback numbers have rushing numbers, so you have that kind of dual threat quarterback that you're trying to compete with Buffalo, with Miami, obviously with Kansas City. So now that you're looking this over for the first time, obviously there's a lot more X's and O's that goes into it, but just from a numbers standpoint, which quarterback would you look at as maybe the best option for the Patriots?
Well, with me, definitely number 1 and number 2. The stats are pretty good there. I like number 1 the most because of rushing touchdowns and the yards. I know 135 carries, but when you have 135 carries as a quarterback and almost 11,500 yards, that's a pretty impressive stat. And then when there's yards here, sorry. When you're throwing 72% last year, that's really good. It's a little under 3,000, but 2 interceptions compared to 17 touchdowns, but you have 10 rushing touchdowns too. It's a pretty good stat for a quarterback.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if you look at the first 2 guys.
Can you read the numbers? Or?
No, I'm actually squinting as I'm doing it.
I can see the pain and the stress.
Oh, my God. It's almost like looking into the sun, but you know what I mean?
No one said reading was involved at this gig.
I know, but thank God he bailed me out and told me the stats. I'm like, oh, that is 135 carrying. Yes. I can see it. Yeah, I can see it. But again, those other 2 guys are going to be gone in the first round. Gone, automatically gone. The other one that I like a lot, and I'm looking at the very last pick, is he looks. I mean, then again, when you look at something like this, these guys are. We don't know until you tell us what team was surrounded by these outstanding athletes. I'm thinking Penix is the fourth one. Daniels is the third one. And I'm not sure about 1 and 2. The kid from USC is probably number 1, I'm thinking.
All right, so going down the list here, we have the names on the screen. Jaden Daniels is number 1. Drake May is number 2, so it sounds like you'd go with Daniels as your pick. J.J. McCarthy is number 3. Michael Penix Jr., Dom, you're right at number 4. And Bo Nix from Auburn and Oregon is number 5. And
oh, wow.
I think if you're gonna go with that Minnesota trade, or even the Giants are rumored to possibly trade,
for Bo Nix.
I think you maybe look at Bo Nix.
Yeah. I didn't even think about him. That's a great stat.
I mean, 4,500 yards, 45 touchdowns, 3 interceptions in 1 year. What's it say? 54 carries, 234 yards running, 6 touchdowns. What's that? 51 touchdowns in a season. That's pretty good for a quarterback.
Yeah, Bo Nix did that.
That's really good.
Bo Nix did that in the Pac-12 too, which I understand is an offensive-heavy conference, but still, those are impressive numbers even for just last season. So the draft is one story with the Patriots. Another big story is the article that came out from ESPN's Don Van Natta Jr., Seth Wickersham, and Jeremy Fowler. And basically it says Bill Belichick was thrown under the bus by Robert Kraft when Kraft was having discussions with Arthur Blank about Belichick taking the Falcons' coaching job. Does this change how you view Robert Kraft if this does end up being true? What was reported in the article? And to give you some quotes here from sources talking to ESPN, Robert Kraft told Arthur Blank, "You'll never have a warm conversation with Belichick. Blank likes coaches who feel part of a family, and it wasn't going to be that way with Bill." Another one said here that the Krafts felt betrayed by the coach, and he didn't think they'd try to hurt Belichick, but he doesn't think they'd try to help him either. They weren't going to try to sink him. He was just finished as an effective head coach.
Wow.
So did Kraft basically screw over Belichick?
You know, after watching The Dynasty on Apple Play there, I do not doubt that at all. I mean, they threw a lot of shade on Bill Belichick on that documentary, and I mean, half the players on their social medias are saying, hey, this is kind of messed up. Bill was Bill, obviously, but he built all of us up, you know, and I do think that Robert Kraft doesn't want him coaching anywhere else. I do, in my honest opinion, I do think that he does not want him coaching anywhere else. That was, I mean, in a sense, that was not his baby, but that was his boy, you know. Tom Brady was his baby, but that was his adult kid, you know, his teenager with Bill Belichick.
189th pick in the draft at that particular time when he got drafted, turned him into the Hall of Fame quarterback he is today. If you're going to pick on, you can't take away what Bill Belichick did on the ball field with these guys. Does he have a personality like this piece of paper? We all can say yes. That's just the way the guy's made, but you can't take away his accomplishments he's had on the football field. I mean, again, he has a terrible one-on-one personality. I mean, the owner's throwing him under the bus, and he could be using this as, a way to, like you just said, as far as maybe deterring the other owners to get away from Bill Belichick because he is that effective coach. Just because the guy isn't friendly, he doesn't want to sit and warm up next to him, be cuddly, he wants to focus on his job. You can't take away the 6 Super Bowls and what he turned Tom Brady into, and all those other great guys. They had to be turned in the right direction. He knew he had talent, and he turned them into Super Bowl winners. But as far as personality goes, I never had an interactive with the guy. I just saw how cold he was when they talked to him on TV. He hated the media. He didn't want nothing to do with the media.
It's a smart coach move, though.
Yeah.
It is. The less you tell the media, in my opinion, the better. Like with the Bruins right now, don't tell them who's starting in goal.
Right. Let them guess.
The less that the media knows in all sports, the better off, in my opinion.
Right.
Realistically, I think Belichick threw himself under the bus. He gave out this persona of being a cold individual that didn't like talking to you, didn't like anything outside of coaching football, and that's fine. But nowadays, a lot of these teams, you think about the players they have, younger players. Do you see Bill Belichick coaching any of these younger players and how they were brought up?
No.
Considering you had, Jim Harbaugh as one of the big head coaches. Nick Saban stepped down because he couldn't handle where the game was going there.
Right.
And I think part of it is the fact he didn't want to handle the players that are there now. A lot of these coaches are younger. They know how to handle some of these younger kids.
Generations, oh yeah.
To me, the fact that Bill Belichick was an old curmudgeon the final few years of his tenure as Patriots, that's what threw him under the bus. Robert Kraft, I think, essentially just sealed the deal.
Yeah, he did. He really did. You know, it's so funny if you think about the last 3 years. If those draft picks turn into ball players, even after Tom Brady leaves, we're not talking about this. He's signing another contract. We're moving on. We're competing in the playoffs. But because his last 3 years were so awful and terrible, came back to haunt him. Then you have his personality to boot. But again, he's got 6 Super Bowl rings. He's proven he can do it. But again, I'm not the one interacting with this
He's
guy
got
all
8,
the
doesn't
time.
he? Doesn't he have 8 realistically?
That's right, the Giants, right?
The Giants and the Giants.
The
both
Giants,
with the
yeah.
Giants. Was it 1 or 2 with them?
I thought it was.
I think it was 1.
Yeah. He was the D coach, right? The defensive coach for Bill Parcells. Yeah.
So of course him and Brady are tied for Super Bowls.
Yeah, right.
Who would have thought?
And he could have had 1 more if he didn't bench Malcolm Butler in the Super Bowl against
100%.
the Eagles.
You have Mike Rowe out there. 3 of the touchdowns are on Mike Rowe in that game. Yeah. Clements, Ertz, and who replaced Malcolm Butler? Mike Rowe.
Yeah.
And I still say the reason Butler got benched is because he talked to ESPN about the culture, but that's another story for another day. We'll take a break on the show. When we come back, we'll talk about longtime announcers stepping down. Gorman, Edwards, and John Sterling all calling it a career all within 1 week.
You've messed up your son's haircut.
Mom?
Do you A, try to fix it,
Like it never happened.
B, work with what you got, or C, show solidarity?
Thank you, baby.
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
How local sports fans hear games is starting to change. You obviously know about Mike Gorman stepping down as the voice of the Boston Celtics. Jack Edwards shocked Bruins fans announcing that he was going to step down at the end of the playoffs. And for the Yankees on radio, John Sterling stepping down as the longtime voice of the Pinstripes. And all of this happened within about a week. I just want to talk about Jack Edwards here for a second. He released a statement saying, in collaboration with Bruins and Nesson leadership, I recently decided that the time has come for me to finish my shift as the voice of the Boston Bruins. I am no longer able to attain the standards I set for myself to honor the fans, the players, the Bruins organization, and Nesson with the best they all deserve. I retire from broadcasting not with a heavy heart but gratefulness for a 19-year-long joyride. The last Celtics regular season home game against the Wizards, the Celtics during a halftime ceremony named the table that the Celtics TV staff broadcast from, named that after Mike Gorman, and John Sterling was given a trophy and an 83-inch TV. But let's talk about the end of kind of a broadcasting era here, because Dom, obviously we call games a little bit back and forth for high school sports and pro sports, high school sports, but still the idea that some of these longtime announcers are stepping down, kind of a little bit of a shock to the system. It
really is. If you think about the voice of the Yankees, I mean, I keep on thinking about the time he took that foul ball. That was probably the best call I've heard a Yankee announcer say.
That's awesome.
Sterling, he just has that golden voice, and it's going to be, I don't know who's going to replace him. Those are big shoes to fill. Same with Edwards, another great caller, and they all have their own unique way they call these games, and we all love it. Either it's on the radio or on TV, and it's kind of sad, seeing it. They say time's undefeated, and time won again, and unfortunately 3 great guys are going to step away from, like John said, when we used to do the games, we did pro and high school and stuff, which was a lot of fun. But you feel bad. I mean, they're moving on.
Yeah. It's definitely going to be weird in the Garden without both of those voices, because both of them are so passionate. Like I said, I don't watch the Celtics as much as I do the Bruins, but I watch enough of the games, and that guy, he's got the passion. When it comes to the Bruins, though, I wish I wrote down a bunch of the quotes from what he said. Anytime we play the Whalers, how we strip the blubber off the whale and all that stuff, and In 2013, Game 7, when Bergeron gets the goal. Anytime we moved on, Horton gets the goal. This guy right there, when any Game 7 he won, he'd go crazy. I mean, I'm happy that he is retiring because he even admitted this year how he's having his vocal problems and doctors don't know what's going on with him. And it is a good time for him to call it quits, in my opinion, just because some of the calls, he can't even pronounce some of the guys' names every now and then, you know. And I mean, the lady that works for Ness, and I forget her name, Sophia Yerkovich or something.
The players can't even say her last name.
Yeah, I get that, and I probably just said it wrong too, but when he says it sometimes, I just say, buddy, come on. It's not, and I'm not trying to down talk him at all, but I don't want the guy to have a stroke up there because of how passionate he is for the Boston Bruins. Like I said, the blubber and the wail, the things he comes up with, how loud he is. I mean, when I go to the Garden, I don't drink because I know at the end of the day, my veins are popping out, how loud I am.
Right.
I don't know how he does it every single day for every game. You know, he's not out there screaming, let's go Bruins and all that, but anytime we score a goal, you can probably hear it down in the lodge when he's screaming up there. You know?
That Bigelow tea they always advertise. Straighten out their voice. But yeah, I mean, it's terrible. I mean, again, time's undefeated, and unfortunately cut up to 3 great guys that really had the pleasure, at least I had the pleasure, or, you know, all of us had the pleasure of listening to them do their deed and entertain us on their play calls.
Yeah, so to me, it's, you know, obviously sad that they're all stepping down, but it's great they want to spend some time with their family and all that. But it's interesting because the role of an announcer, I feel like, has changed since, you know, Jack Edwards was hired. Yeah. When Jack Edwards was hired by Nessa in 2005 or somewhere around there, it was talk about who's passing to who shot the puck, who scored, here's a couple stats. But nowadays, there's so much going on. It's like trying to conduct a 75-piece orchestra. You have to worry about stats. You have to worry about your analytics. You have to worry about not saying the wrong thing. Yeah. You have to worry about sponsors, timing, and you have to also call a game going on. As a Celtics fan, you know, Drew Carter took over as the play-by-play voice on the road game, so he'll be the play-by-play voice for all the Celtic teams on NBC Sports Boston starting next season. But the issue, and it's not an issue because everyone works multiple jobs, but nowadays the issue is whoever you have calling games, they're going to have 4 or 5 different jobs. When it came to Edwards and Gorman and Sterling, they were with the team at the start of their tenure, and obviously times change. But nowadays, you have people that are coming in and trying to fill a spot, but they don't know the players off the court, and that's where some of the best storytelling was.
It really was, and it's a pity they're gone. Hopefully, like you said, it went from just calling a game to everything you just mentioned. I'm not going to repeat what you just said because you hit the nail on the head, but it's terrible. I mean, it is. We got to move on. We got to move on, and hopefully these guys won't entertain us as much as these other guys have, and otherwise they'll be replaced.
No, we need the passion in Boston.
Oh, we do.
You need the passion in Boston. I know the New York guy too. I didn't talk about him much, but he was passionate about the Yankees. You know, and how can you not? I know we're Red Sox fans, but if you're from New York, how can you not be passionate about one of the best baseball teams ever?
I mean, I don't care if they get a janitor to do the Yankees games, as long as they take care of the Bruins and the Celtics. But of course, I'm kidding. I mean, again, 27 World Championships. He's seen a couple of them, and another great voice that's going to be missed in professional baseball.
It's going to be interesting to think what Pat Maroon had to say about Jack Edwards leaving. I know they had such a nice past. So that's
probably brought him up a pizza from Sal's Pizza. You know, that was probably the thing.
Or halftime. Got our pizza place near the Garden. But anyways, coming up next, we had the buzzer. We'll talk about Jim Harbaugh leaving town before the punishment came down from the NCAA, and also changes being made to college football, including the games perhaps getting a little bit longer. More after this.
Most party fouls are pretty dumb. But if you decide to drink and drive underage, you could lose your license and your freedom. Underage drinking and driving. the ultimate party foul.
To the buzzer we go, and Jim Harbaugh was named the Chargers head coach earlier this year after winning a national championship with the Michigan Wolverines. He was suspended 3 games at the start of last season for the Wolverines due to recruiting violations. The NCAA handed down its punishment, handing down recruiting punishments as well as financial punishments to the school, and Jim Harbaugh gets to go to L.A.
Terrible. Gets an ugly tattoo. They get short of an employee, and he gets some $1 million big deal to coach football, and the school pays for his crimes.
It is pretty bad for the
It's
school.
terrible.
But are we going to see a Harbaugh Bowl again?
Ooh, I don't know about that. I don't know. I want to give it time. I want to see how these Chargers players react to the new coaching staff and all that. A lot of talent on the Chargers team.
Oh, yeah. Herbert, Williams, Keenan Allen. It's just, I think they were always missing a coach. I do think they're in a tough division, but I do think they needed a better coach over
I had
there.
$1 for every time the past coach got ridiculed, even by everybody. I mean, there wasn't one good thing. I can't believe he's doing. What's he doing with the time? He's not being time conserved. You know, all that stuff you hear about the old Chargers coach. Now you have a guy that's played in coached in the professional league, basically hung Michigan out to dry, left, got the big contract. Now he's back in the pros. We'll see what happens. See if they buy into his system.
Luckily for Harbaugh, he coaches in L.A., and nobody cares about that team or
Yeah,
the
true.
football franchise.
Right.
Harbaugh's lawyer did say that they didn't even contact him to speak up in terms of defending Michigan. But nonetheless, Harbaugh is a football coach in the NFL, and Michigan is left to pay the price. Yep. Another college football newsmaker here is that the FBS college football games will now have a 2-minute warning and helmet communication. So essentially, we're looking at NFL 2.0. The helmet communication shut off at 15 seconds or when the ball snapped, and the 2-minute warning is at the end of each half. Good idea, bad idea, or does it really matter?
I mean, I don't think it really matters. Look at the NFL. They have all that. I mean, in college, you have the signs, which are cool, the sign calling and all that. But if you can do communication through the helmets, I do think that helps the players perform better. And that's what the people want to see. The defense is playing better on offense, and offense vice versa, you know?
If you think about it, how bad's the coaching when you have to all of a sudden put a mic in it, call an 18-year-old's, 21, 22-year-old's helmet, where before you didn't have to do that. You talked about the signs.
The signs, yeah.
And all of a sudden someone's complaining that, if we had what the NFL had, we'd be able to pull this off and really win games. I don't think so. Right. I really don't think so.
Well, it does help to get the players ready for communications in the NFL, so having a random voice in your ear maybe helps them out. But kind of interesting how we're talking about that after Jim Harbaugh, who was found guilty of sign stealing.
Yeah.
We have On the Sidelines Overtime coming up. You can watch the full show on YouTube. Just search BTV Access Corporation, and you'll find our video right there. But coming up, we'll talk about the Celtics and Bruins starting their chase for the championships. For the Bruins, hot and cold. For the Celtics, hot and cold.
/SOS.
Welcome to On the Sidelines Overtime. John Luck, Brad McKinnon, Dominic Damiano. As you see, we have a lot of Bruins black and gold. We have a green light here. We have a Celtics rally towel behind Dom. I'm not going to stab you with a pencil.
I was worried about that.
I can see. The Celtics and Bruins started their chase for the championships at the TD Garden. The Boston Bruins head to Toronto to play the Maple Leafs, tied 1-1. The Boston Celtics, as we are recording this, are preparing for Game 2 against the Miami Heat. But, Brad, you had a lot to say about the Bruins after Game 2, and it got chippy out there on the ice. You were actually at the game.
Yeah, it was. So, Game 2, first period, it wasn't our best. But we ended hot. I mean, we got in the goalie's face. The helmet thing came off, and then next face-off with 7 seconds left, Pastrnak gets one in the net from a pass from Zacha. Maybe it was DeBrusk. I believe it was Zacha. DeBrusk assisted the first one. But Game 2, we definitely, in the second period and the third, we did not show up at all. We played horrible that game, and we only lost by 1 goal. And, I mean, the refs, Toronto wanted to complain about the refs in Game 1. I'm going to complain about the refs for both teams. The calls they were calling against both teams in Game 2 were a little ludicrous. Marchand, He gets sticked on the right leg. He falls down. He holds his left. The penalty before that where they got their second goal, I forget what it was. The dude either pretended to fall and get tripped when it wasn't a penalty.
The interference call on Grizzly, I think that was kind of iffy there.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a shove. I don't think you're going to shove him. Maybe
that's the one I'm talking about right there, was the one on Grizzly in the second. But when it comes to that game, if you're going to play that poor, that's going to be the final result. You know, you can have 20 bad minutes in hockey. You cannot, especially in the playoffs, have 40, especially 40 in a row. Because you started nice, and then you ended horrible. You gave Linus no breaks. That dude was playing on his head when he had the glove that almost went all the way in, and there were plenty of other saves where you're just like, how did he do that? You know, but hopefully Game 3, we show up like Game 1. Because Game 1 was great, fast pace for us. You know, we can't be just dishing it out and letting the Toronto come right back at us. We got to try to play in the neutral zone more than we're playing in our own zone. I know we'd rather play in the offensive zone, but at least have the fighting in the middle for now. Because way too much time. Toronto had way too much time in the offensive zone.
Right, that's one thing they have to take care of. If you think about the 3-2, but when it came to crunch time, no matter what they were calling those stupid penalties, you have to execute. You have to, like you talked about in the offensive zone, you got to come through. You know, just because they're trapping you at the red line before you can do anything, and it's dump and run. You have to work on that. I almost said Montreal. You'd say Montreal. Toronto's a very good team.
Close next province over.
Yeah, exactly. Toronto's a very good team. And when you have Matthews, probably one of the best players, and you give him that break, takes advantage of scores, takes the lead, now you're playing, oh my God, what am I going to do? There's 7 minutes left in the game. What am I going to do? You have to be able to coach that. Okay, dump. You know they're going to try to trap you at the red line. You have to be able to, if you're going to dump, you've got to have a game plan. Can't just always be dump. But most of the time it is, and they're hoping for the defenseman or whatever wing's helping out at that end of that corner of the rink to help out. You got to be able to fix that, turn it positive. You know, don't stress out with 7 minutes left in the game and hope you'll get a break. Like you said, Sampson was playing over his head. He's a very good goalie. You're playing one of the better goalies in the. There's a reason why Toronto's in the playoffs, and this is one of the reasons why they're in. So you can't put yourself in that situation because you know what's going to happen. You're going to lose. You already proved it in Game 2. So they have to fix that right away.
So you mentioned the awful second and third period, play-wise, ref-wise, and all that. But I look back at the first 5 minutes of Game 1. The Bruins were just letting the Maple Leafs shoot the puck all over the place,
they were,
make
for sure.
long passes. The Bruins should have been down 2-0 the first 5 minutes in Game 1. Mm-hmm. It just seemed like the Maple Leafs were playing almost 3 steps ahead of where they should have been. And then you look at the Bruins the last, 2 minutes of the first period of Game 1, there was a penalty called that carried over into the second period. Now, it didn't shoot them in the foot because they obviously won Game 1, but overall, I think this Bruins team just has ability issues. The bottom 2 lines have been outperforming the top 2 lines. You mentioned Pasternak with 100%. The assist, but this is a problem that's gone back to Claude Julien. You think about the 2011 banner that we have right here behind you. What was the best thing about that team in 2011? It was the fourth line, the Fribble line, the hard-hitting line with Nathan Horton. And, obviously you had your top scorers with Bergeron, Marchand, Chara. But it came down to those bottom 2 lines and eventually having all 4 lines kind of commingle. Right now, there is such a sharp cutoff between the top 2 lines and bottom 2 lines. The Bruins can't provide that if they go into the second round.
Yeah, they got to step it up. That third and fourth line have to step it up. But we're going to be looking. We could be down 3-1. Worst case scenario, going back to Boston. They have to step it up. And like you talked about the 2011 team, those teams were gelling. Those lines were gelling. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of talent on this Bruins team. They just got to believe in themselves, like we've seen them do all year. Win these close games, blow out these teams sometimes in the regular season. They have to realize they first have to get rid of that stupid trap zone stuff they like to pull, like they proved like they showed in Game 2. There's too much talent on the third and fourth line. They know they can do it. Just get it done. Don't worry. You know what to do. Just get it done.
And Peak is out week to week. what does that do for the power play defense? Because to me, once he got taken out of the game, that's almost where the Bruins collapsed. And if you're depending on someone like Peak as kind of your linchpin for defense, that's not a good thing, I don't think.
I'm going to be honest. I'm not too worried about Peak being out with Mason Lowry. That kid, he's young, but he showed up with the games that he played in. And I'm pretty sure we recalled him. I know Derek Forbert's on a healthy scratch right now, so he could always come back. And I mean, this year he wasn't the best on the penalty kill, but the year before, Derek Forbert was incredibly good on the penalty kill. I don't know what happened there, but there's definitely he definitely dropped a little bit. But when it comes to the Peak thing, I'm really not worried. The biggest thing I am worried about is line number 1 and line number 2. And I hate to say this, but I almost want to see them broken up. And you have Brad Marchand on the left, Zaka in the middle, and Pasternak on the right. Almost kind of bring back the perfection line, because when the top 2 lines aren't buzzing as much as they should be, which they're doing a decent amount, but with the talent on those top 2 lines, I mean, Charlie Coyle, one of my favorite Bruins players. He doesn't always hit the net, but he's always out-muscling people, out-stick-working people. He can set up big plays, and I think look at him and Jake DeBrusk right now. They're pretty good together. They do mix pretty good. So I think if you had Jake DeBrusk, Coyle, and Heinen on a second, I would just try. I know I'm not the coach, but that's something I would try to do, because Marchand and Pasta should both be getting at least a point a game. And I know they are right now, but let's bring that point to 2. Let's each maybe get a goal every game, I mean, look at these other teams. You have Edmonton Oilers. McDavid's out there just giving everyone an assist. Game 1, Zach Hyman gets a hat trick, And I'm not comparing our guys to Connor McDavid, him and Austin Matthews, it's who's the best in my opinion. But Marchand, not this year, but years before, he was one of the best left wingers. He was. And I mean, Pasta, he won the Richards Award one year. So I really do think, I know the power play, you have those guys out on the ice, but I do think you need to have Brad Marchand and Pasta together a little bit more, because no matter what, those guys from their years on the perfection line still have more chemistry than any line combo we have right now.
So right now, when we're recording this, they have 2 games in Toronto. When this thing comes back to Boston, what will the series score be?
Tied.
I agree.
Tied.
I totally agree.
Make it 3-3. I think this is going 7. Maple Leafs, Bruins, and who knows in Game 7?
Yeah.
Maybe Jack Edwards gets the good send-off.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the other.
Send off to the second round, buddy. What are you talking about over here? It's the Leafs, Game 7.
We'll talk about the whole Celtic-Bruins friction coming up here, but let's talk about the other team that plays in the Garden. That is the Boston Celtics. They won Game 1 of their series, 114-94. Jason Tatum, his first playoff triple-double, 23 points, 10 and 10. But the first 3 quarters, this thing wasn't even a contest. This was a Celtics blowout. And in the fourth quarter, I'll talk about this in a little bit, the Celtics just Celtics themselves up.
They did. I think I'm not worried about the Celtics as much as I'm worried about the Bruins.
Oh, 100%.
Like you said, that was a total embarrassment by the Miami Heat. And I think the Celtics are going to win it. I think they're going to sweep them. They're going to embarrass them again tonight. The thing that hurts the Celtics is the Celtics.
Oh, themselves.
When the Celtics turn this into, like you said, who's going to get the triple-double, or who's going to get the double-double, or something like that,
They're hunting for stats, and that's when you shoot yourself in the foot.
Exactly. As long as, White's back, thank God. As long as they play Celtics basketball, and comparing the Bruins to the Celtics, I know we haven't done that yet, but as long as the Celtics stay within themselves, they'll be fine, and they'll sweep the Heat.
Okay. I have no worries about the Celtics in this matchup. There might be one down the road that I do, but I really do think this team will go all the way if they don't shoot themselves in the foot, and if they don't play who's the bigger superstar and all this. Because, that game 1, look at their 3%, 3 shooting at the beginning. They were on fire from the 3, from what I recall. Yep. And then, like he said, they were chasing. And that's when it went from a 32-point lead to, I think at lowest, it was 15-point lead.
It was in single digits for a little bit in the fourth quarter. I was starting to kind of sweat a little bit watching that. And when I say the Celtics themselves up in the fourth quarter, turnovers, those ugly three-point shots, just kind of playing that iso ball that's continued to kill them. You go back to last season against the Heat. You go back to the season before that against the Warriors in the finals, the season before that against the Heat. The final thing that I took away was turnovers and iso ball. This team operates best when they move. They move off ball. They get Kristaps Porzingis involved at the top of the key. He can break the zone along with Jason Tatum. That's where Miami can kill the Celtics, the zone defense, because for some reason this team has a difficult time navigating zone defense.
Yeah, they got to run the motion more. That's when they're not doing. They're not running motion. They're just playing. It's almost like sometimes it looks like when they win single digits, look like a bad CYO pickup basketball game.
It gets to the point, Joe Mazzulla, after they go back and forth 12 times, the guy that doesn't call a timeout has to call a timeout.
He does. He does. He has to be more self-aware. Guy's played at this level. He knows the game. It's almost like he's second-guessing himself sometimes, from his body language. Way, should I call a timeout? Oh, wait a minute. Now we're down single digits. Maybe we should. The human beings are going to get gassed, and they need to take a break. And you got to pick the right time to take that break. You don't wait for the TV timeout, especially when you're down in single digits. Give those guys a chance.
22 to 5-1 either.
Exactly. Because again, they are Miami. As much as we all believe they're going to sweep. Well, I believe they're going to sweep them. They're still good basketball players.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's 4 or 5 with me. It's a sweep of 5 games with me.
Exactly.
I might give them one, and that all depends too. If Jimmy with his knee, what he does.
Right. They run this. It's almost like what's the old word they used to use for a phrase? A hook and ladder. Not hook and ladder. Where the
Shoots and ladders?
Shoots and ladders.
I was just coming up with a board game out.
That's all right. Basically, you give, you go, you feed the other guy, almost like hockey. You feed the guy down low. They got 2 wings. The Celtics have these unbelievable wing shooters, and Pritchard's my favorite. And you have White that can shoot it, but like you said, they were shooting those ugly shots. Ugly shots. You don't run the motion. Work the ball inside. You got a big centerman there. You got Horford. Use those guys to get the other team in foul trouble. I think sometimes these professional teams don't realize. Guess what? If you get them in the bonus, you get to take a couple. I call it charity stripe.
Yeah.
When I call high school ball, you get to shoot from the charity stripe, and usually you should be able to hit those. You should be able to hit those buckets.
You would hope.
You would hope.
I mean,
exactly.
Tatum, I remember missed 2 in a row that game.
Yeah.
Game 1. You can't do that.
Well, Tatum was 8 of 8, so that worked out fine game 1.
For freeze?
But from free throw line, 3-point, he was 1 of 8 from the 3-point line.
Right.
So
all right.
yeah, that was
1 of 8. Ooh,
Wasn't
even
his
worse than I thought. All right.
It's all right. Game 2, game 3, we'll improve that. But one thing that I actually did like is Joe Mazzulla leaving the starters on the floor. Obviously, it got a little dicey there with a minute and a half to go with Caleb Martin. But the Celtics have had 2 or 3 weeks off. They need to build up these playoff minutes because once you get on to round 2, hopefully, or round 3, or the finals, those players are going to be playing between 40 and 45 minutes. So Jason Tatum played 41 minutes in game 1. Brown, Porzingis played 34 each. White and Holiday played 33. So I think game 2 and 3, we maybe see that increase to 37 or 40.
Slowly build it up.
At this point, the Celtics, I hope that they win the first round. But to me, the Celtics have to plan for the long term and hope for the best. Because if you go ahead and you have Tatum, Brown, and all these guys playing 45 minutes right out of the chute, you're going to end up shooting yourself in the foot, and they're going to shoot a bunch of bricks on threes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what they used to do, they'd wait till 2 minutes left in the game, then they'd pull out the stars, give them a break to start the next quarter. You can't do that anymore. Stamina is so important. You got to be able to show that you can last with these other teams. They can't just get gassed and just,
And quickly, there was that one play that I referenced earlier with a minute and a half to go. Caleb Martin running into Jason Tatum. Was that a dirty play?
It was right after a timeout. Act like the Miami Heat coach didn't say, hey, go do something. That's my honest opinion. I mean, that might be the hockey in me speaking, but I really think that's what happened, is after that, when that timeout happened, he said, hey, go get in their heads or go do something cheap, where this game's a loss. More than whether you had a minute left in the game, you knew it was a loss.
Exactly. We'll never know, but I'll tell you, the way he was positioned and the way Tatum fell and all that transpired, it makes you scratch your head. You take out the best player in the Celtics.
Oh, 100%.
You're hurting.
that's the one thing that concerns me about this series is don't forget Super Bowl Sunday, Jaylen Brown and Duncan Robinson got into it. So that's the one thing that's in the back of my mind this entire series. That moment between Brown and Robinson, the Heat are going to use that in their mind. Pat Riley is Pat Riley. So I wouldn't be surprised if it was kind of called out there to go do that. Right. But to me, at that point in the game, you're not going to risk a suspension. Holiday kind of pushed him. I think he took advantage of that and just took out Tatum. But luckily, everyone made it out of there alive. Everyone made it without getting suspended. So
he got right up, thank God, as soon as he got up. Oh, thank God he got. You know what I mean? I don't know.
I'm glad he braced. He caught it. He didn't save himself, but he braced himself.
Right.
Enough
that
so
was
good to see.
Enough so he didn't get concussed. Didn't twist an ankle.
Smash.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
So series score, what do we got?
The series score.
You kept saying sweep or 5.
I'm saying I'm going to say sweep. We take him in 4.
I might give him one game, 4-1 in 5.
I'm going to go an extra game because this team can't win in convincing fashion. So Celtics in 6. Why not?
Celtics in 6. Okay.
So earlier you heard me and Brad kind of go back and forth a little bit. He's a Bruins fan.
If you can't tell.
Obviously. I'm a Celtics fan. And any friends I have that are Bruins fans, they always like to come at me. I like to come at them during the playoffs. And there's kind of this back and forth that goes on between Celtics and Bruins fans. Is it fair to say there's kind of a border war when it comes to fans in the Garden?
So in my opinion, there is. And the biggest reason for this right now, in the past 20 years, 1 championship for each team. Who is a better team in the TD Garden? You know, who's going to bring more back? I mean, this year, if the Celtics don't win at all, I'm going to be more mad if the Bruins don't win at all. This is probably the only year I'm ever going to say that too, and that's just because of what Brad Stevens has gone out and got us for players, like we said, the bag of chips for Porzingis and all that. The Celtics have so much more to lose, in my opinion, than the Bruins this year. Any other year, I'd say, hey, I hope you guys lose in the first round and we make it all the way, you know. But this is the one year where I am going to say I really do hope the Celtics can bring it home. I want this to happen more,
right?
Obviously, but I'm going to be a little bit more upset. Yeah, Nathan Horton back there, for those who can't see, all right?
No, he hit the nail on the head. If you think about how many, you think about the Celtics. There he is, right?
Number 18, Mr. Game 7, right here.
There he is. You know, he hit the nail right on the head. If you think about how many who's went further in the last 5 years, you know, they're gonna start calling the Celtics, which I would hate, the Buffalo Bills of the NBA.
Oh, 100%.
You know, that's gonna be awful, but. I mean, everyone in this New England region that follows the Bruins, Celtics, Patriots, Red Sox. I'll even go the Revolution, which I don't even know if they're still around. I'm like kidding, but anyway, we all want to see our teams do good. But when it comes to the Bruins and the Celtics have always went further in the playoffs, right? And I think we're gonna start hearing nicknames about, you know, what are we gonna call the Celtics now? They can't win the big game. They go to the finals again and you think about it, we talked about back and forth the talent on this team. You know, it all comes down to, like you said, you mentioned stamina. Can they, you need stamina in hockey to skate with these other teams. But if they cannot get more minutes and get the cardio in and get the minutes in, they're going to go, it's not going to be pretty.
One stat that I do like, and I almost want to guarantee the Celtics have this same stat, is since 2015, when Don Sweeney, I believe that was the year he took over, but I know 2015, this stat is correct. Since 2015, the Boston Bruins are the best team when it comes to win, losses, and all that since that in the whole league. And I almost want to say that the Celtics might be there too. You know, yep. I mean, last season definitely helped boost those numbers a lot, because I was very surprised when I saw that. And I believe it was Tampa Bay right below us in second place in hockey, and then maybe Toronto, and I think Washington was up there too. But when I saw that, I had no idea that the Bruins were. I even looked it up, did some research on it, and I was like, wow, this is right. I mean, Don Sweeney, I don't have much faith in him when it comes to him drafting. I mean, we all hope that this guy right here, number 74, can make up for 2015, what happened in that draft.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you get 3 draft picks in a row. the Celtics, if Brad Stevens got those, you would never worry about the Celtics for the next 5 years. Right. You know, but when Don Sweeney picked up who he picked up, I mean, we just got rid of one of the guys that we barely used finally this year, Zorbel. I forget the other dude's name. It started with a C, but you never even saw. He played 2 games, I think.
Right.
You know.
There is a quote-unquote border war at the Garden. Let's call it what it is. Celtics fans, Bruins fans, whether it's friendly or not,
there's a truce from me this year. I'll say that. I will
they
say
don't like
that.
each other. They root for the other team to lose, so that way they have bragging rights in the Garden, and that's fine. To me, like you said, the Celtics have everything on the line this year. Mm-hmm. Realistically, the Bruins, not a lot was expected from them at the start of the year, so anything past the second round is just basically more whipped cream on a Sunday.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
For the Celtics, everything is on the line here, so you're going to see a more intense fan base, I think, from the Celtics than the Bruins. I don't know how it was at the Garden Game 2, but watching the game on Nesson, that Garden crowd sounded quiet for a Boston Bruins playoff game.
You want to know what sucks? I shouldn't have my voice right now.
No.
2 days after the game. Listen, I get loud, and I'm not going to complain because the tickets were free, but I sat 13 rows back, right behind. We shoot twice, you know? I'm trying to scream. I mean, I got ready to start the he shoots, he scores, you suck, Samsonov goal chant. But of course, we score, and then they score 10 seconds later, and then we score, and 7 seconds later we're going into the half, and then we never scored again. Up top is where everyone has fun. If you sit down low, those people don't get loud.
I did when I was down there.
No, not a lot of people around me was getting loud, so I don't know what was going on because I was screaming, and it got to the point I stopped. I said, there's no point. No one else is even clapping their hands when I'm yelling, let's go Bruins and all that, you know?
I might have kind of given a small fist pump.
You might have heard me a few times say, hey, ref, you're not the only one with money on the game, but that's about it, you know?
Nowadays, you have to be careful with that, especially in the NBA with Jonte Porter. But finally, we all have our gripes with life. You know, there's something that just kind of rubs us the wrong way, kind of pushes us over that edge. And I thought we'd end the show here with some gripes because for basketball fans, a lot of their gripes are with officiating, especially after that Knicks-Sixers debacle where the Sixers legitimately got hosed by the referees and the referees even said it after. But as far as sports gripes goes, what's a couple of your sports gripes?
My biggest one is embellishment in hockey. You're seeing it a lot. Game 2, look at Brad Marchand. He gets whacked in the leg. He falls to the ice and grabs the other leg. I can't stand that. I call LeBron LaFlop because he kind of brought that into the world, in my opinion.
I call LeBron other names.
Me too, but we got to be PG-13 here.
It's overtime.
But that's definitely my biggest one. I mean, I can't stand the drama with some of these players too, and this is every sport. I'm not just talking hockey here. Drama in sports is something I mean, I loved when Akib and Crabtree would pull on each other's necklaces and get in each other's faces in football because that's a contact sport and you're supposed to get in people's heads. I don't know if you're supposed to rip $20,000 necklaces off people's heads, but that's the only kind of drama I like in sports is not people crying and all this stuff that you see all the time. You know?
That's my biggest gripe too. Like Mahomes crying about that offsides call and this play was completely offside. Tried to attack the official on the sideline, being an ex-high school official. You know, doing umpiring baseball. You hear all the chirps, you're supposed to ignore them. NBA players, NBA fan, I'm looking. I love them all, I do. John knows that. But just sometimes the way they showboat, the times they make it more about them and not about the team game.
Oh, 100%.
And like you said, Marchand grabbing the different ankle. Right? And that's, I'm thinking to myself, why did they ever get rid of that rule where, because the refs weren't good at, saying who's acting, who's not. Like tripping, but there's nobody. But there's play. You know what I mean? They used to have a 2-minute minor for flagrantly
embellishment.
Embellishment. Yeah. Thank you. I couldn't think of the what they used to call it back then. Maybe they should bring that back a little bit or something. But
I think it's still a thing, but I haven't seen it be called for years.
Right. I thought they went away from that a little bit. Well, maybe they didn't. But that stuff, the showboating in hockey, the showboating in all our sports, the professionals not applying the 2-minute rule. as far as, let's, like Mahomes again, not thinking this out. I guess my guy was offsides. It's right on the Jumbotron, for crying out loud. You can't help but miss it, but it's the referee's fault because he did the right thing. He was getting paid to make a call. He made the call. Stuff like that's the stuff that gets me.
My biggest gripe as a basketball fan, the final 3 minutes of a game, when you're down by 12, 13, 14 points, why do we have to foul to get the free throws? The game's over. You're just going to keep adding on and missing. So the one thing I've always thought is if you're going to do that inside the final 2 minutes, there should be half a second taken off the clock. Punish these teams that are taking way too long trying to draw out the game, try and make something happen when 9 times out of 10, that's not going to happen.
I dislike that so much too. It's like, let's not turn those last 2 minutes into 15 minutes. Let's just end the game. Let's go to bed. Let's make it see that the Celtics have a 2-0 lead in the series, which will probably happen tonight with Miami in the following.
I like that positivity.
To add to your comment you just said, I like it when it works. But I mean, there's so many great shooters in the NBA. They ain't like high school, but college ball. Of course, they slow down. They stop the clock. Now the kid, you don't know if the kid, what his percentage is, because he's 85%. Big game, NCAA. Oh, he missed. But in the pros, you figure these are the best kids that ever got drafted in this generation right now that are playing the NBA. They usually make that shot. Like I said, 9 out of 10 they make that shot. Should you penal? Someone's going to add something, because it's just like speeding up the game of baseball. Someone's going to complain. They're going to get their own little committee together that we're not going to hear about. We're really sick about these guys. You know what I mean? Something's going to happen.
Or an umpire's going to hear a thing and the manager gets tossed. But
that was awesome.
That was awesome. I didn't say anything.
That was awesome.
All right,
didn't our guy get thrown too the same day or the day after?
Who watches the Red Sox? That's a better question.
I mean, I have a Red Sox hat on, and I haven't watched a single game
I
this
have.
year.
I'm
not going to lie there.
Only because I wasn't expecting them to compete with the Angels, compete with all these teams with the pitch. The pitching is bailing them out. They got no hitting. We all know that. Yeah. But the pitching is, they're in the top 5, I believe, in the American League as far as ERA and, walks and strikeouts and stuff, and batting average, which is really cool. But again, oh my God, I keep on thinking about that rule you just said about 9 out of 10, and oh my goodness gracious.
We're trying to change the sports world day by day.
Day by day, brick by brick.
All it's going to take is one complaint. They'll do something about that, fouling them on the 5 minutes.
And we're getting older, so that goes with it too.
Yeah, true, that's right.
That'll do it for On the Sidelines Overtime. For Brad McKinnon, Dom Damiano, I'm John Luck. Thanks for watching.